Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is January 13th, 2025, and let's get to the news and updates happening in Ukraine and Russia, shall we? So let's begin with some big announcements today, some big news. And one of the largest Russian employers, Gazprom, this gas giant, is hinting at slashing over 1,500 jobs within its headquarters staff over the next few weeks, and that's only the beginning. Remember that Gazprom employs over 500,000 employees. That's according to the company's data from 2023. And they've also issued an economic statement last year in the summer indicating that they had a loss of $7 billion in 2023 alone. Its first loss since 1999. So we don't yet have the numbers for 2024, but I'm inclined to believe that they probably will be even more disastrous for Gazprom for 2024. So we can expect even more layoffs over the next few months, over this year in Gazprom, because they have a massive workforce and they've lost their entire sales to Europe. So Gazprom is just heading towards total bankruptcy and their own life support right now. So this is good news because that's bringing Russia closer and closer to economic collapse for this year. Additionally, you've talked about the sanctions, the latest sanctions by the Biden administration, the Russian shadow fleet, and India and China are now hinting that they will reject also Russian oil tankers under these US, UK sanctions. So that's also very positive. So Russia's losing on massive revenue streams, which of course fuel the current war in Ukraine and bring Russia closer to an economic collapse for this year. And again, this is entirely on Russia. They've weaponized these companies. Remember back in late 2022 in the winter, where Russia was making ads and making fun of Europe that they would freeze to death without Russian gas and Russian oil. That was a message to Europe to diversify, and they did. Most of the European countries diversified and found alternative providers. And that's what happens, right? When you weaponize companies like Gazprom and other oil and gas giants within Russia. However, that brings me to the other topic. There are certain countries in Europe that did not diversify, did not get the message, and continued to be reliant on Russian fossil fuels. And one of them is Slovakia, one of the remaining countries that is extremely dependent on Russian gas. And since late December, Fico has been making statements that it's outrageous that Ukraine is cutting off gas transit to Slovakia and that they're escalating the tensions between both countries. And his very first address, where he issued that statement, came from a Vietnamese hotel, a super ultra luxurious Vietnamese hotel that costs like $5,000 per night. So that shows you how important that situation is for Fico, that he's addressing his nation from Vietnam rather than from Slovakia. But again, nobody feels bad for Slovakia. They had 3 years to find alternative avenues for their energy security, and the very silence from the European Union says everything we need to know about the situation, that no one feels bad for Slovakia and the Fico administration. It's too bad, so sad. And if countries like Austria, Hungary even managed to diversify their energy security to find new providers, Slovakia also had the ability to do that. And what was funny today, why I bring Fico to the news updates, is because he issued another statement calling for Zelensky to meet him at the Slovakian-Ukrainian border, where he said that it would be symbolic that you could use a direct train connection from Kiev to Košice, which is the result of the joint efforts of our governments to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict. And then Zelensky responded by saying, okay, then come to Kiev on Friday. And perhaps, who knows, maybe Fico will be brave enough to come to Kiev and meet with Zelensky and figure things out. But I don't think so. Fico is not a brave president. He's not a brave leader. And the very fact that he's making his statements or, was in Vietnam during this entire crisis really tells you everything you need to know about Fico and who he works with right now. So I don't feel bad for Slovakia, and another nation I don't feel bad for is Russia, because today, some great news. Ukraine continues on its daily UAV and missile strikes against Russia. I've already talked about it in my video last week about the fact that Ukraine is now capable of striking Russia daily, whereas in the beginning of 2024, Ukraine was doing it maybe once, twice per week. Now it's a daily thing. Since the end of December, I've been pretty much hearing on a daily basis UAV strikes after UAV strikes on different Russian oblasts, which is great. And today, another significant strike against a chemical plant in Bryansk. So explosions could be heard in the Bryansk chemical plant, which manufactures ammunition for Russian MLRS systems, such as the Urahans, the Grads, and also the Tornado G systems. And of course, the Russian mental gymnastics continue here. They continue saying that it's only debris that's hitting the facility. So, of course, the Russians will never admit that the Ukrainians have capabilities of their own, that they have capabilities to strike at will on Russian factories, ammunition depots, oil refineries. And why this is significant. Of course, this one factory being destroyed isn't going to end the war, but this puts more economic pressure on Russia. These facilities cannot be easily repaired, rebuilt, and it's a huge loss for Russia. Also for the war effort, because as you see, this chemical plant manufactures ammunition for Russian artillery and MLRS systems. So losing that is a huge blow for Russia, no pun intended, and bringing them closer and closer to total economic collapse with all the sanctions working together and the Ukrainian sanctions, aka UAV attacks and missile attacks. This is only worsening the situation within Russia. And the Russians who feel like, there's no war going on, that they're intact and nothing's going on, well, everybody living in Bryansk, in Rostov, in Belgorod are definitely feeling the heat right now. And that's really important as well, bringing the war closer to the Russian people. So let me know, guys, what you think about any of the topics I covered today. Again, if you want to donate to the Ukrainian Drone Fund, I leave a link below in the description of this video where you can donate some of your money to the Ukraine drone program, which then accelerates Russia's collapse. So any, even 1 cent is appreciated. So thank you so much for your support for this channel and for Ukraine. Huge thank you. Slava Ukraini.